Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to show you guys. This is the WE Winsome. Interesting name. I'll let you guys take a look at the box there real quick. So when I originally unboxed this knife and looked at where they were going to put the price tag, I was appalled. I could not believe, but just now I went and looked on Blade HQ, and either their paperwork was wrong or they just decided not to charge that much for it, or maybe they decided to change the price completely. The price has come down dramatically to a much more reasonable spot, but is that price tag still justified? I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. Thanks so much to WE Knives for sending this in. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. In the past, WE Knives has made knives, and just so you guys know, like, WE sends me stuff directly. The vast majority of the time, I get to keep it. And if you use my link, I get paid. I get a commission. So you'd think it'd be in my best interest to only say nice things about WE Knives, right? Well, if you look back to previous reviews, when they are priced too high, I call them out on it. Because here, especially within the last year, there's been a lot of stuff where I'm like, whoa, wait, why are you charging this much for this? You have other similar knives in your lineup that cost $100 less, and it's essentially the same. So they have not had across the board praise from me, but they also periodically do make incredible things and price them fairly, and that's when I get excited. So I'm going to treat this knife exactly the same as I would any other knife on this channel, and tell you exactly what I think about that, what I assume is the new price tag, unless my memory just is failing completely. We'll go ahead and measure this knife. It's pretty big knife. Overall length is coming in at 8.35 inches. Blade length is coming at 3.85 and cutting edge 3.5. Very similar to, it seems like they've been going for that Shirogorov ratio. The Shirogorov blade handle ratio and the Shirogorov folding steak knife look, which is good. I like that. It's good looking. Those are the magic numbers, right? That's the magic geometry for an aesthetically pleasing knife, at least from my perspective. So I'm glad that they seem to be tackling that a lot lately. But anyways, let's do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and Others. Up against the 80-10 and 80-20.5. It's obviously a long knife. It's even longer than the 80-10, just not as burly. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? Bigger than the Spyderco PM2, way more cutting edge, way bigger than the PM2. And then finally up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. How's the action on this knife? So the pivot action is great. This is definitely a WE sauce knife, if you don't know what I mean. This is one of their more recent, whatever they did to their OEM, the upgrade. Yeah, pivot action, phenomenal. Axis lock bar, very, very good. Thumb studs. A little bit poopy. I don't like the little tiny thumb studs, and there's not a lot of access. I can get it, but I have to position my thumb a little awkwardly. Same thing with the reverse flick. Ooh, nope, not really. How about the top flip or front flipper? Jimping's not really deep enough. None of the options for deployment feel super satisfying and feel slightly uncomfortable. This is not necessarily uncomfortable, just I don't get enough traction. And then the thumb studs, I can do it, but geez, it's kind of tearing up my thumb. It's kind of insane. So I kind of wish that the thumb studs were a little bigger and were domed off, and maybe just an extra ring of steps there. I mean, it's just, they're kind of small. And I don't know. It seems like it wouldn't have been too crazy to adjust this and just make room for a bigger stud. I don't know. They are both open and stop pins, like the open position and closed position stop pins. So that's kind of interesting. But pivot action, good. Satisfaction of deployment, ease of deployment, and just general pain of deployment. Yeah, not my favorite. Let's do carry profile thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. Let's go here. Honestly, it's about the same. Pretty close. length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. So in pocket, this is pretty friendly. It's a full-size knife for sure, but it doesn't carry any longer or taller than the PM2. In fact, it's not even quite as tall as the PM2. I wasn't sure which knife I wanted to pick up there. Just only slightly longer with the front flipper there. Definitely bigger than the Para 3. Let's weigh it. What are we looking at for materials? Well, sometimes it's hard to find the blade steel on, there it is, just itty bitty. Little teeny tiny M390 there. WE does not like to go much higher than 59 to 61. You should be aware of that. It's not abysmal, but 59 is far from optimized. 60 is the first HRC number with M390 that I consider good. 61 is better. 62 is amazing, but it's a bummer to me that they still want to include that 59 in the range. Sometimes with the coated ones, they even go all the way down to 58, which is not good. But typically, I've heard when WE knives get tested, this is a new part of the segment because I have been complaining a lot about that range. It seems like that low number is sort of a safety net, like an outlier kind of. I can't remember if it was Transparent Knives or who did a bunch of testing on WE knives. Maybe it was Love Them Knives. Found that the majority of them seem to hit 60 to 61. Maybe you test one batch of 100 and you test another batch of 100 and you get totally different results. But I did hear that. I'm not saying that that's absolutely set in stone, but if that's true, that's good. I like that. I can't say that WE knives have ever felt like they lose their edge faster than other production M390 blades from China. So maybe that's true. But anyways, M390, and then we have this like lava fat carbon, and then we have a it's like a lightning ano pivot collar. It's very hard for me to tell if it is Damascus or if it's lightning ano. I'm going to go with probably lightning ano. And either way, it's not enough Damascus to significantly affect the price tag. So realistically, it's just kind of a shiny little color bit around the pivot collar, right? It would make a big difference if the entire backspacer or pocket clip were Damascus, but that's not the case here. This has been laid into this smoky gray titanium, and it does look cool. Honestly, I kind of wish they just did a black pivot collar or like a zirconium, like a polished. You should just do more of this around the pivot. Would have been really nice. The color there's a bit odd, but I do like that lava camo carbon fiber. That's cool. And then a lot of titanium. So I'm going to guess this weighs north of 5 ounces, probably closer to 5.5. No, I'm wrong. It only weighs 4.8 ounces. Well, I'm not sure. I'm honestly at the point where the thumb studs are making me so mad. It just does not feel good to deploy it. But the balance is actually right behind the pivot. So it's pretty nice there. Let's do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. So the pivot is going to be a T8, and the body screws are almost certainly T8, yeah, and 2 on each side. Very easy to take apart and put back together as long as you have the right tools for the job. You should be completely and totally good to go. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness. I think WE likes like about 150, maybe 155. Let's see. Yep, 155 thousandths. Okay, meat and potatoes time. It's a good-looking knife, depending on which version that you get. They got a bunch of different weird versions. WE always does a good job with the variety. Sometimes their color combos are a bit wacky, but their finish work is really, really good. And usually their color contrast choice is also very good. At least gives a lot of choice for people, a lot of different choice, right? It's not like red, blue, green, yellow with satin blade. No, they do a lot of different little things, right? Outside of the thumb studs, the rest of the knife is very impressive, very comfortable. Kind of wish we had jimping that extended out to here, but that's okay. The blade is beautiful, if you want to call that like a spear point with an elongated swedge there. Really, really nice. I love the smoky gray on the titanium. I think that looks awesome. All of the edges are nicely knocked down. Really wish that this was contoured. Really, really wish the handle had some contouring. That would have made a world of difference, especially in, when we look at that final price tag. But it is very nice. I don't want to pull away from this. There is a lot of work that went into this for sure, so I do appreciate it. The pivot is bowled out a little bit. I think that's nice. You can see the bevels of the pivot are polished, and then beyond that, you have that ring of lightning ano titanium. I think that's awesome. Bevels look nice. The styling or sort of the flow of everything looks nice. This is, again, a sloped resting area for the external stop pins. I don't like that,
but I have no evidence. There's nothing to suggest that this won't hold up. In fact, if you remember my review on the Quinceris or Quinceris or whatever, I said the same thing. I said the stops should, essentially, let me get out the XM24 here. There's a little space, a little spot for these to hit and stop. They can't, same thing with this. I mean, once they contact, it's not like they're just going to fall off there. They're pinned. But this area is sloped. I think it would take a lot of lock bar wear before these started to move backwards. But I don't like that they can, technically at some point. I mean, think about the total amount of space that this would have to move all the way over and then start to, it would have to have such a reduction in material contact that these would then slide, right? So it'll probably never be a problem. I flipped that Quinceris 500 times to see if it would move at all, and they didn't, right? It's just odd. I don't like that sloping. I wish they had a little spot to rest, but I can't prove that that's actually a problem. I don't think it will be. It's just something I look at and go, I don't trust that, but I don't have any reason not to trust it. So you guys can think whatever you want. Backspacer, kind of cool, little floating backspacer thing there. Nothing special, just looks kind of neat. I like the area for the lanyard. That's cool. How it just sticks out right there. It's nice to look at, even if you're not going to attach a lanyard to it. Pocket clip is right hand only. Bummer. Lefties. Really wish that we always had mounting positions for left-handed people, but we don't always. Kind of a long clip, but if I'm being honest, it doesn't really affect me much ergonomically, so that's fine. No big issue there. I like that WE Knives keeps all of their billboarding off the blade, and they've just got the pocket clip there. It's a classy touch. I really like that. Lock bar is partially, I think it's actually just a really thin lock bar. Should just have this flashlight out and handy. Yeah, it is. There is part of it, I think, that's like tucked underneath. Can we see? It's probably like tucked underneath part of the scale. We have a steel lock bar insert. That is probably also doubling as an over travel, but I think the entire lock bar is its own over travel underneath this this piece of material here, this piece of carbon fiber. So I'm actually, the thumb stud has started to bother me so much that I'm only opening it like that. I'm actually pulling up on both sides. That's really definitely affecting, how I feel here. The edge gets down to like a medium thin, and maybe slightly on the thinner side. And then here is your plunge grind here, which doesn't look too bad to me, but if you sharpen all the time, you might have a different opinion. So yeah, cutting edge, the factory cutting edge from WE is always excellent. It's really, really good, nice and sharp. But obviously you can get that as sharp as you want, and you can dole it up and change the, change the angle or whatever you want. Same with any other knife. So, let's see here. Have we covered everything? Stop pins are external. And then also, the closed position stop is right here, which they also don't have a little spot for. It's just like leaving a mark on the frame, which is also kind of a bummer. Centering, absolutely. You better believe it. It's a WE knife. No detent lash or anything like that. No blade play up, down, left to right, and no lock stick either. So what is that final price tag that you don't hate as much? The base price is $298. Yes, tariffs are, I've had a lot of messages from a lot of companies. Tariffs are definitely affecting a lot of these companies. Interestingly, it's not that interesting. Not every company plays by the same rules. And it's a lot of it is over my head. And here's the other thing. I don't know who's leaving out information or not. I don't know. I'm just the reviewer. All I can do is just compare and say, who's got the most impressive thing for the least amount of money, right? Who's doing this? Who's doing this for less? Who's doing this plus this for less, right? That's all I can compare to. $298. Between $250 and $300, this has a lot of what I expect. I think the original price was like over $350. The original MSRP. I'm sorry, not the MSRP, the street price. And I definitely, in the unboxing, looked at the piece of paper. I looked at the outrageous MSRP, which nobody ever looks at because it's trivial. And then I looked at the actual street price target, and it was stupid high. And I was like, what? No way. That's ridiculous. This price tag on this definitely, it can't be the same. It's up there. It's not crazy. This would have blown me away at $250. So $298, I'm kind of like, that's kind of just like right there in that, like it's about $20 higher than I would have liked to see it. $275, I think would have been absolutely perfect for this. I'm not mad at, what is it, like $292? Not mad competitively, right? A lot of people are going to say, I can get titanium in M390 or titanium and whatever for $200 from Artisan Cutlery. You can, but it's not going to look like this with all the cool finishes and the inlays and the action. All that's not going to be that. You're paying for that stuff. It's not just like sprinkled on there and it's like no charge. No, it definitely costs more to do that. So there is a little bit extra here. Had they contoured this, it would have been a yes for me for sure. Really the biggest issue for me is not the price tag. I really hate those thumb studs. I hate them. They are so irritating and so not fun to use. And the only other means of deployment isn't that spectacular either. So yeah, I don't know. This isn't my favorite. I'm not super upset at the price tag anymore, but it's just got other things that bother me more than I thought they would. So still interested to see what WE Knives brings out in the future. I would just really like them to watch their price tags. They got some of the stuff that they released got a little out of control, and they started slapping an extra $50 to $100 on things for no reason at all. And you could say tariffs, but I feel like everything was already, I don't know. Again, I'm just gonna do what I always do, and I'm just gonna compare to other companies doing the same thing with the same rules, manufacturing knives in the same country. And if they're doing it for less, then I'm going to hold a lot of companies to that same standard, right? And, if a company has a sort of small batch limitation, that's one thing. But WE does not have a small batch limitation. They're huge. They manufacture on a grand scale. So, there's not a lot of reason for something like this to be $350 to $400, right? $292, $298, whatever it's at, I'm not super upset with, but that's going to be it today, guys. Links for this knife down in the description. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on the Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.